Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. The Quranic System of Sustenance. By Allama G. A. Parwez. Translation. Fazal Kareem and Salayina Kareem. History as witness. The Quran urges us to study our own history, and observe that every great civilization eventually fell and new nations took their place. How many were the populations we utterly destroyed because of their iniquities, setting up other peoples in their place? 21. 11. Such was the state of these civilizations that when the consequences of their actions inevitably began to catch up with them, they panicked. Yet, when they felt our punishment coming, behold, they tried to flee from it. 21. 12. Flee not, but return to the good things of this life which were given you, and to your homes, in order that you may be called to account. 21. 13. In other words, divine law gripped them and they had nowhere to hide. They had no choice but to face the consequences of their ill-gotten wealth. They had exploited and benefited from the work of others. They had hoarded, and built extravagant monuments to their material success. And so they stood exposed, called to account. Let us briefly consider the final line of the above verse more closely. That you may be called to account. This is the Quran's way of telling us that all people without exception will eventually answer to divine law. As things stand at present, when a group of people becomes extremely powerful, it does whatever it feels like, and its members feel supremely confident that they will never have to answer to anyone. Whether this powerful force takes the form of a singular tyrant like Genghis Khan, or whether, as in the modern age, it takes the form of the tyranny of the majority, the resultant attitude is the same. No one can question us. As far as they are concerned, once they take a decision it becomes law and no one can challenge it. The Quran tells us that this attitude is false. The fact remains that the outcome of every decision they take is actually determined by divine law. Even if a 99% majority decides that from today poison will be good for you, their decision will not change the fact that it is poison and it will never be good for them. Poison will not change its nature just because the majority says so. It will retain its nature in accordance with the dictates of divine law. Likewise, the majority may decide that it is fine to exploit and live off others' efforts, but this does not mean that they will get away with it. They can decide or believe whatever they like, but they will still be subject to divine law. This is what the Quran means when it says that they will be called to account. But stop them, for they must be asked. 37. 24. Again, they are deluded in thinking that they will never have to account for their actions. Indeed, they are subject to divine law and cannot escape it. Their unjust actions have not gone unnoticed. In fact, the consequences will surely engulf them sooner or later. They ask you to hasten on the punishment. But, of a surety, hell will encompass the rejectors. 29. 54. They shall not be able to evade the consequences. 82. 16. The divine law of requital. When nations of rejectors, Kafirin, devise a law that serves their interests, they gloat. See? No one can touch us. But they don't realize that the law of requital has already surrounded them on all sides. And yet, they who are bent on rejecting the truth persist in doing so. But all the while God encompasses them without their being aware of it. 95. 19-20. Divine law dictates therefore that no matter what they do, the consequences must and will catch up with them. Accepting, as we do, that history corroborates this reality and the power of the law of requital, we can say with a full sense of conviction that the divine revolution for an ideal state will certainly occur. This is a divine guarantee. The hour will certainly come. Of that there is no doubt. Yet most men have no conviction in it. 40. 59. The mistake that most people make is they expect an immediate result of the type we frequently observe in the physical universe. For example, we know that putting one's hand in fire is bad for us, since the consequence is immediately apparent. But when we defy divine law in our social life, the consequences of doing so do not materialize in the short term. Subsequently, we make the mistake of thinking that there was no consequence. Hence, in the above verse, yet most men have no conviction in it. Thus it is in our social existence that a sense of conviction is absolutely necessary. We must have unequivocally accept the fact that the universe does not operate on blind forces, but upon a law behind which is the personality that is wise, the all-aware, the all-knowing, the all-hearing, and the all-seeing. The need for conviction. The external law that exerts its influence throughout the natural universe similarly exerts its influence on socio-economics. It is simply not possible for any human law to supersede divine or natural law, because it is impossible for any man-made system to benefit humanity as divine law does. Only a system that is established in line with the divine decree is beneficial to humanity, since it is also in harmony with the natural order. Any system not established in accordance with the divine decree is bound to lead to chaos and destruction. And yet if Quranic ideals are introduced to a man-made system, they will transform it from a chaotic force to a beneficial one. This is what we might call a divine or heavenly revolution. Human versus divine law. By revolution, we mean change, that is the replacement of man-made laws with a true system. To make a comparison of the differences between man-made systems and the divine system would require a book of its own. But we can list the general major differences as follows. 1. In human systems there will always be an inequitable distribution of labor, that is, there will always be a class that is wholly unproductive and is a burden on society. Yet strangely, rather than being recognized for what they really are, this class of people either sit in positions of political and economic power or they sit in the pulpit where they can live off the blood of others. 9. 34. However, in the divine system of Rabubiyyah, the formation of such a class is impossible, since no one bears the burden of another. 53. 38. 2. In human systems there is a class that profits solely from investment, and not from labor. Others do all the work, and they take the lion's share of the earnings. This is what the Quran calls riba. Lit. Increase. And it can take any form. In the divine system, barring those who for whatever reason are unable to work, everyone must work. Anyone who tries to avoid work without a valid reason will be immediately prevented from sharing in the benefits of the society. The basic principle of such a society will be that we can earn only that which we strive for. 53. 39. 3. The basic principle of a human capitalist system is that whatever an individual earns by using his intellect becomes his rightful property and none can take it from him. Hence a single household might acquire excessive wealth whilst others are left without enough to get a daily meal. In the divine system every individual works to full capacity, but keeps only what he needs, whilst leaving the remainder of his earnings open for the benefit of society. 2. 219. In this system hoarding will be considered a grave crime with dire consequences. 9. 35. 4. In human systems some people take the land, including its potential for produce, into private ownership and restrict others from utilizing its resources. In the divine system, however, neither the land nor its resources can be taken into private ownership. These are left open for the benefit of all. 41. 10. 5. In human systems the tax collector's only duty is to receive the people's dues. But no one is responsible for ensuring that these taxes are put to good use in helping everyone to meet their needs. In the divine system the responsibility of ensuring that sustenance reaches each and every member of society falls on the administration. 11. 6. It will take care of their children as well. 17. 31. Not only will the system ensure that no one goes hungry, but it will also ensure that all other physical needs are met as well. 20. 118 to 19. In a human system, the focus is solely on bread and defines its success in terms of its ability to meet just this form of sustenance. But in the divine system, sustenance goes beyond bread and includes everything needed to unlock humanity's hidden potential. The pioneers of this ideal society work to establish a system of solate and thereby arrange for the sustenance and development of humanity. 22. 41. The subject of this development will be the human self, because in a true system success is defined in terms of how developed the human personality becomes. 91. 7 to 9. Thus the purpose of establishing this system is to perfect the self. The individual does not sacrifice himself for society. Rather, society exists for the benefit of the self. Since the human self will continue to exist beyond death and continue with its evolution, the divine system not only provides everyone with the good things on earth, but also ensures that the self will receive the good things of the life after death as well. 2. 201. 6. In human systems, humanity has become divided into conflicting nations and groups, and every nation exploits and deceives others in order to protect its interests. In the divine system, all man-made divisions are eliminated and humanity becomes united as one family. This system aims to serve the interests of the whole of humanity and not just one particular section of it. This is because it is founded upon the principle that the only true system of life is one that benefits the whole of humanity. It is the only one that will persist or remain on earth. 13. 17. 7. In human systems, the criterion for respect and honor is based upon one's social background. Those who are born into wealthy households and thus are able to purchase power are automatically treated with respect. This class also tends to view all other people as being below them in status. In the divine system, however, every single person is equally worthy of respect simply by virtue of being a human being. 17. 70. Here the criterion for respect is based upon how much an individual does for humanity. He who fulfills his duty to the utmost will have the greatest position of honor. 49. 13. 8. Finally, it has always been the case that whatever system the human intellect might conceive of, it has ultimately created a class of rulers and a class of the ruled. This has been true in every system, from the monarchy of old to present-day democracy. No matter what form the government takes, this class divide always exists. Conversely, there is no concept of rulers versus the ruled in the divine system. Because the laws that govern how human beings should lead their lives have been predetermined by God and not humans, and thus they are fixed into the Constitution. Subsequently, no one will be able to declare his own authority over another, since this would be a subversion of the divine authority. 3. 79. All everyday affairs of the state will involve the people in what the Quran calls mutual consultation, and all subsidiary laws will be enacted accordingly. Such laws will be followed by all, starting with those who work directly in the administration, since they will lead by example. 6. 163. The members of this ideal society will themselves bear witness to the fact that here there is no one begging and no one deprived. There is no master and no slave. The divine system is one in which there is no oppression and coercion. 2. 256. It is designed to bring humanity to its peak and is the one that will certainly come into being, in accordance with the decree of the Quran. Human revolution. Just as the divine system is incomparable to any other in the world, likewise the revolution to establish it is unlike anything seen in human revolutions. Generally speaking, a human economic revolution is driven by a desire to create a society in which everyone's material needs are met. We know that the vast majority of the world's people do not have enough to meet their needs, whilst a tiny percentage of people control the vast majority of the world's wealth. Obviously, under these circumstances, any revolutionary cry for equity will receive the support of the majority, since the majority are poor. It doesn't take much to incite rebellion against the wealthy elite and to take everything from them without fear of consequence. The fact is that needy people are always quite willing to steal from the rich. It is only the force of law that prevents them from doing so. If someone tells them to break their shackles and rise up, and promises them that he, as instigator of the rebellion, will take responsibility for any fallout, then a violent revolution can occur overnight. This was the call that Marx made to the proletariat. His slogan was, "Workers of the world, unite. You have nothing to lose but your shackles." But let us consider the aftermath of this revolution. You call out to the desperate and the needy. They heed the call. They snatch the wealth from the rich and see change happen in front of their eyes. They quickly gain much and lose nothing in the process. But before they have even finished looting, you suddenly order them, "Now get back to work." It goes without saying that the people do not like to hear this. They respond, "What's the point of a revolution if it ends with us returning to hard labor again?" Nevertheless, they may reluctantly return to work, but then you tell them that the surplus of their earnings must come back to you. That is the government. So that it can be distributed to those who cannot earn for whatever reason. Will the people agree to it? They will say, "You had called us to revolt with the promise that we will lose nothing, and gain everything. But now, not only do we have to work, but most of what we earn has to be given away as well. We supported you in order to gain, not to give." Mark the underlying problem. This was the same class that was never happy to give in the first place. They supported the revolution only for its gains. Now you have little choice but to deal with this class as you did with the capitalists. You have to take their wealth by force. Without force, neither can you get the people to work to full capacity, nor can you get them to give up any of their wages. If a person knows that no matter how much he produces, even if he produces a ton, he will only receive a tiny portion of it to fulfill his basic needs, then what incentive does he have for being fully productive? The fact is, you will have to make the people productive by force, and you will have to take their wages from them by force as well. The final resort is the Iron Curtain of the type Russia adopted after its first generation in order to hide its shameful situation from the world. Of course, a system in which people willingly give to one another will be productive and successful, its society will be happy, and so there will be no need for a curtain of any kind, let alone an iron one. In fact, its people will be anxious to share their success with the rest of the world, and will be acting as an example for others to follow. And you see the people enter God's deen in crowds. 110. 2. Divine Revolution. A revolution for the divine system of Rabubiyya does not employ the above aggressive methods that communism does. In reality, our present understanding of revolution is not really a revolution at all. It is mere rebellion and chaos. The person who advocates the system of sustenance does not direct his call at the poor, nor does he promise nothing but gain. Instead, he addresses those who already have plenty and are in a position to give their surplus away. He invites them to help create a system whereby their surplus will be used to raise the living standards of all. The Quran shows us that all the messengers addressed the wealthy class for this reason. They were invited to help establish a system in which everyone would work to their full capacity and leave their surplus earning open to society. The Quran thus sets up its system through those who are in a position to give. It asks nothing of those who will receive. In fact, the opening pages of the Quran state that the pioneers of the revolution will be those who believe in the unseen, establish salat, and spend out of what we have provided for them too. 3. No one compels or forces these pioneers to do this. They willingly act upon the truth that they have seen in the Quran and which they have wholeheartedly accepted. In short, they recognize that the secret of life lies in giving, not taking. It is with this in mind that they take the steps to establish the divine system, and they also work as hard as they can. so that they will be in a position to give more and thereby develop themselves further. Of course, not only wealthy people but also poor people support the divine revolution, and indeed the poor are the first to be drawn to its ideals. However, they don't join the revolution in order to take from the rich. Rather, they join it with a view to eliminate the injustices caused by false human systems in operation throughout the world. Indeed, they are prepared to give up their lives for it. Ultimately, all who join the revolution do so with the intent to give to humanity, whether that giving is in the form of time, energy, talents, or even life. The method of revolution for the divine system thus begins in the heart, and the external revolution that occurs is its natural outcome. It goes without saying that bringing about this kind of revolution requires much effort and hard work. Surplus wealth. Bernard Shaw has said, and to an extent rightly so. When we have examined the possibilities of this apparently simple matter of spare money, alias capital, you will find that spare money is the root of all evil. In fact, the entire economic problem comes down to surplus wealth. Those with surplus wealth tend to hide it to prevent anyone from stealing it. And those who would like to take it are constantly following wealthy people around. If a man keeps his surplus wealth in his wallet, someone is always ready to pickpocket him. If he puts it in a safety deposit box, a thief will find a way to break in. If he puts it in a safe, armed robbers will come for it. If he puts it in a bank, the taxman will demand it. And finally, heaven's salesmen have their eye on whatever is left and seek to take it by collection. All this happens in order to try and take an individual surplus. But the Quran does not take surplus wealth by force. It brings about a change in hearts and minds. And so whoever has a surplus will constantly be looking for somewhere to spend it on humanity. And they ask you as to what they should spend. In God's cause. Say. Whatever is surplus to your needs. 219. They do so because they know that their expenditure will benefit the whole of humanity and enable every individual to perfect his or herself. Hence they will not only live in dignity on earth, but they will also be entitled to receive the good things of the hereafter. This is the kind of revolution that the Quran decrees for humanity. It is also called Islam, and those who establish it are Muslim. Here the question arises as to how we can bring about the change in people's hearts, minds, and outlook that will make the external change a reality. The obvious answer is education. The Quran addresses this point as follows. It is He who has sent to the unlettered people a messenger from among themselves, to rehearse to them His messages, to sanctify them, and to instruct them in scripture and wisdom. 62. 2. In other words, here the Quran shows us that the messenger's role in instigating the divine revolution was that of a teacher. He introduced them to the revelation, and showed them the implications of its teachings. He also explained the basis of these teachings and the results its followers should expect to see from implementing them in practice. Likewise, any pioneers of the divine revolution today would need to go ahead and pass on what they have learned to others, and thereby change their hearts also. These disseminators of the message thus act as Rabbani. That is, human agents of Rabb, divine sustenance. Become men of God. Rabbaniyana. By spreading the knowledge of the divine writ, and by your own deep study of it. 3. 79. They remind each other that they will always participate in positive work in accordance with divine law, and will remain committed to the divine program. They do righteous deeds, and enjoin upon one another the mutual teaching of truth, and enjoin upon one another patience in adversity. 103. 3. Hence these pioneers become so dedicated that they have the ideal in mind at all times. 3. 191. And indeed it becomes as natural to them as breathing. Their children, being born into this environment, also naturally pick up the truth as they grow and take it for granted. And furthermore, when they go out into the world they will find proof everywhere of all that they have learned at home, and this will serve to strengthen their conviction. This is how the Quran makes clear that the secret to developing the self at the individual level lies in actively working towards the development of humanity. And that the purpose of life is to develop the self. Those who fully comprehend this point are the ones who ultimately lay the foundation for the divine revolution. As we have already discussed, neither is anyone compelled to join this program nor is anyone prevented from leaving the system should he so desire. Since the system is dedicated to freeing and developing the self, obviously there can be no room for compulsion. Nevertheless, if any force attempts to hinder the divine system, or tries to thwart the propagation of its ideals by force, then it will be incumbent on the Mu'mineen, people with conviction, to stand against it and fight them, the oppressors, until there is no more oppression, and justice and God's deen prevail. But if they cease, let there be no hostility except to those who practice oppression. 2. 193. Even in war, the members of the divine system will never commit deceitful acts, and will never be involved in any conspiracy. There will be no breach of trust on their side, nor will they commit any crimes against humanity. This is because they obey divine law and their ideals are freedom and the betterment of humanity. We might wonder whether it is indeed possible for a mere education movement to instigate such a momentous change across this vast world. But we mustn't forget that in today's world with its modern technology and ease of travel, the world has essentially shrunk and become a global village. Communicating an idea across the world is much easier today than at any previous time in history. But of course whoever wishes to spread a new idea must have the power of the media at his disposal. If any country today comes to accept and then implement the truth, it is not difficult to imagine that the rest of the world will be inspired by its success and prosperity. For this reason, today's conditions are ripe for the divine revolution. Now consider the following. If this system is established, it will automatically resolve the socio-economic issues that presently seem irresolvable. With the establishment of the divine system, economic slavery will come to an end, and so will the war between wealthy landlords and poor farmers. The never-ending conflict between industry workers and bosses which presently wastes enormous time and energy will cease, as will the conflict between home proprietors and their tenants. The lender and borrower will be no more. There will be no more haggling between shopkeepers and customers. There will be no more fighting over estate and inheritance. The parasitic institutes of interest and profit will be eliminated. Crimes that people have always committed out of desperation and poverty will be no more, whilst the chaos that ensues with economic inequity will cease to be an issue. There will be no more wealthy classes that are free to do as they please. All homes will be sanctuaries of peace and happiness. People will be free to roam through the markets without fear of being robbed or attacked. People will be able to trust all businesses and services. In short, every member of society will be dedicated to following divine law and to working for the betterment of everyone. And so we will witness a heaven on earth. Conclusion. Remember that this is not merely the vision of a poet, or a utopian dream. This is a reality which must and will come into being. A revolution that will happen. Time itself is waiting to see which fortunate nation will take up the torch of truth and light the way for the rest of the world. This nation will lead and take the whole of humanity towards the heaven that Adam lost so long ago. This, the divine system of sustenance, is humanity's beautiful destination. And so it is that they who attain to conviction and do righteous deeds are destined for happiness in this world and the most beauteous of all goals in the life to come. 1329